Hello everyone, my name's Raya. Today I would like to introduce you to a small town tragedy that was caused by asbestos mining. This place is called Asbestos Town and is located in Wittenoom, Western Australia. After watching this presentation, I hope you will be able to understand what really happened in Wittenoom back then and what caused it to be erased from the maps and the signposts and turned into the now completely abandoned Asbestos Town. I will first show you the timeline of events and give the consequences of asbestos contamination from a geographic perspective. Then, I'll talk about the diseases associated with asbestos exposure, and I'll focus on a disease called mesothelioma. Finally, I want to share with you how the area in which this town is located is doing now. This timeline encompasses a number of important events from the rise of the town of Wittenoom to its eventual demise. It all began in 1915 to 1917 when the Australian Department of Mines first noticed the presence of blue asbestos in the Harmsley region. Then, between 1943 to 1950, the Australian Blue Asbestos Company started mining operations in Wittenoom, with a focus on extracting blue asbestos. Later on, in 1950s to 1960s, Wittenoom's asbestos industry boomed, and the town became one of the world's largest centers of mining and processing blue asbestos. The mine was a major source in Australia at that time, and contributed to the country's big construction industry. Time came after 1916 when a report by the Western Australian Department of Industrial Hygiene raised concerns about the high level of asbestos dust in Wittenoom due to the heavy mining activity and recommended improved dust control measures, culminating the cessation of all local asbestos mining on December 30, 1966. But asbestos contamination did not stop with the end of mining, and in 1978, the government conducted an official investigation into the health status of former Wittenoom miners and residents. In 1980, due to the continuing rising health risks, the government declared this place a no-go area and began evacuating the town. The government also attempts to remove the town from the maps and public records. It officially became known as the Asbestos Town. But it wasn't until 2006 that the last residence was forcibly evicted from the town, marking the official end of the community. Let's look at the main contaminant mineral in this incident, blue asbestos, also known as chrysolite. We can see in this picture it is beautiful, and maybe we can see it's like snowflakes. But these are very dangerous thing. It is carcinogen when people breathe in. Although asbestos can be used in many areas such as construction, manufacturing, the dangers it poses are far from negligible. Exposure to very dusty air or long-term exposure to low levels of airborne dust containing fine fibers of this mineral can cause serious lung disease, including mesothelioma and lung cancer. The substance is also EPA identified as an environmental pollutant. Here is the picture, and this was the area that was contaminated back in the time. We can see almost in the center of the entire town and past the river. Asbestos fibers were also reported to be present in the water sources such as rivers and creeks near Wittenoom. The Western Australian government came up with the startling fact in the later case statistics that 2,000 of the 20,000 people who lived in the town or worked in the nearby miles died from asbestos-related disease, particularly, we mentioned before, lung cancer and mesothelioma. Even now that the town has long been deserted, the government still makes posters of exposure risks and related diseases. The above data is based on a paper in a Journal of Australian and New Zealand Public Health titled Incidence of Mesothelioma in Aboriginal People in Western Australia. The table on the left shows the selected exposure categories for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginals, with 26 of the total 39 cases directly related to mining operations. A higher proportion of non-occupational exposures resulted in mesothelioma cases among Aboriginal people compared to those who are not. The right table shows the incidence rates for the same participants of each decade from 1980s. Age standardized incidence rates tend to be higher in Aboriginal people than in non-Aboriginal people, but the differences between the two groups have varied considerably over the past decades due to the smaller amount of Aboriginal cases. Now, in 2023, many years after the event itself, what happened to the place where that town was located? The results don't seem to be satisfactory. To this day, blue asbestos is still present. Look at the picture. Blue asbestos remains in the dried riverbed. Okay, the above is the story of the asbestos town of Wittenoom. Summarized in the chronological order of events, beginning in 1930 and ending in 1966. The 3 decades of mine activity brought the town a popular reputation, only to become the deserted, polluted place one sees today. This tragic history provides a profound lesson for the future about the importance of prioritizing public health and taking strict measures to prevent the devastating health consequence of asbestos exposure. Hopefully, in the near future, people will hear any good news about the complete cleanup of residual asbestos in the Wittenoom area. And these are the references. Thank you for listening.